Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Women for Progress, Legally Speaking. I am your host this evening, attorney Darla Palmer. And again, I'm so excited to be here this evening. I have a special guest here, a friend of mine, and actually my ex husband. Still a wonderful person. We get along well. And I just want to say hello to you this evening, Judge Don Palmer, Hinds County Justice Court. How you doing?
Good afternoon, Attorney Palmer. I'm doing fine. Pleasure to be here with you.
Yes, sir. Thanks so much. Listen, our legal question for this evening is going to be, what is it like to be at the Hinds County Justice Court? And I feel like I almost know as much as you do since I've been there with you quite a bit of the way. And but as we get started this evening, I want to first give our Women for Progress disclaimer. And that being that we are not actually giving any legal advice, but merely giving and having a legal discussion. And so, if you are indeed seeking legal advice, then we suggest that you actually obtain a personal attorney for direct advice. So, let's get started this evening. So, let me ask you, Judge Palmer, where are you from actually?
I'm from Grenada, Mississippi, born and raised. Uh, Born, of
How
course,
long does it takes about how long to get there from here, from Jackson to Grenada?
about an hour and a half.
Okay, that's not too bad. And so, did you at some point move to Jackson?
Yes, that's correct. Moved to Jackson in 1987 to attend Jackson State University.
Okay. And so, after you got here to the sonic boom of the South, what happened after that?
At some point, I had the opportunity to join the Hinds County Justice Court as a deputy clerk. Upon that opportunity, I was there for about 10 years as a deputy clerk, serving in the purpose of going to court. A lot of the times, actually dealing with the patrons as they walked in to do their business there at Hinds County Justice Court.
Wow.
So
So 10 years of that?
10 years, 10 years from approximately 1993 till around 2003.
Okay. And so I believe I met you in 1994. So that was nearly 30 years ago that you've had some exposure to justice court, right?
That's correct.
Wow. That's been a minute. So tell me, after you, what did you gain from being a clerk, you think, first?
Just a knowledge, a good, well-rounded knowledge of the court system itself. Oftentimes, people they don't do business a lot with the court, so they don't know how the system runs. And I might have been a victim of that myself. If you don't have to go, you don't really get into trying to find out the workings of the court.
Right, right. And so I would imagine you also were able to sort of deal with people, and you understood where they were coming from when they would come to the court after you became judge.
That is correct. That's correct. That's a fair assessment. Gained a lot of friends. Saw a lot of people. Helped some people. Um, all of that experience it makes me the person that I am today, and the way that I interact and conduct myself in the position of Hinds County Justice Court.
Right. So after those 10 years as a deputy court clerk there at the Justice Court, did you have aspirations then to become a Hinds County Justice Court judge?
That's correct. Prior to, I had no inkling of an idea that I would be a justice court judge or be a judge. I like I said, came there as a deputy clerk, looking for employment, and to take care of myself and take care of family. So, but once I saw the workings and actually sat there with the judges day in and day out, um, it was my steps being ordered, in my opinion. And from that point, of course, after the 10 years in 2003, I decided to run for Justice Court Judge. And I had an excellent campaign manager. So
Her last name
that,
Palmer as well.
that is correct. Probably the best campaign manager in the land. Um, in that bid, though, in 2003, I was unsuccessful. Um, Lost probably about 200 votes in a runoff, and
Right.
we
And
came
so let
back.
me ask you, I don't mean to cut you off. So what all does it take when you want to run for a justice court judge? What all
In
do
my
you have
in
to
my
do?
opinion, it takes a whole campaign, from TV to radio to canvassing to the signs. Of course, you need funds for all of that. But it takes a whole campaign. I mean, in its entirety, nothing being left out. More, I would probably parallel it like a national election. You can't leave any stones unturned, in my opinion.
Right. So did you once you signed up, is it a partisan race? Is it
It is Justice Court judges at this point are under partisan, and there's some discussion about going to nonpartisan because we are the only judges that are partisan. All the rest of the judges are nonpartisan.
okay. Wow. So that means the pretty much in the state really. So that circuit and Court
That's
of
correct.
Appeals and Supreme Court, Justice Court judge is the only one that either runs Democrat or Republican or independent, right?
That is correct.
Right. So after that first race that you ran in 2003, why didn't you say, "Oh, forget this. I'm through with this"?
Well, actually, being on the losing end, it leaves you a little bit bitter, just a little bit. That's just the human part of it. But after I had time to reflect and just kind of look at the whole race in its entirety, and there were supporters that supported me, and I appreciate those individuals. Right today, I have some of those same supporters that are still, backing me, and I appreciate them to the highest. That's my constituents out of District 1. That's Hinds County in the North area, North Jackson area.
Okay. So
North Jackson, Northeast Jackson.
yes. Okay. So you have quite a bit of precincts, I would imagine.
That is correct.
Yes, in District 1.
That
Yes.
is correct.
Okay. So Northeast Jackson.
North Jackson, Northeast Jackson.
Yes. So you came back, right? After that
That's correct.
2003, guess we should say you didn't lose, but you learned.
That's correct.
Came back 4 years.
Yes, that's correct. Took a look at it, took a look at numbers, tweaked it a little bit, just a little bit. Didn't need to do a whole lot, and came back and was able to go in office. Actually, I would say won by about 1,500 votes. Very
Yes.
successful. And
Right.
thankful and appreciative again to the people and the constituents of District 1.
Yes. So since that time, that would be, I guess, 2007 or 2008 when you took office.
2008.
And okay, now let's fast forward. This is 2024. You have,
Yes.
that's amazing to me thinking about it. I think I asked you a few weeks ago, wasn't this year 16 for you?
And that is correct. 16 years. Time go by real fast, real fast.
Right. You're a young man, I see. I think I'm a year older than you, but
Well,
but
sometimes I feel young and sometimes not so young.
so those 16 years, let's talk a little bit about justice court and the workings of it. I think I find myself a little bit the landlord tenant, all of that stuff. I have a little trouble trying to understand it myself. But first of all, how many judges are there? How many justice court judges in Hinds are there?
There are 5 justice court judges in Hinds County.
Okay. And so how does the court system work? Are each of you, oh, excuse me, are each of you assigned a certain amount of days to come to court, or how does it work?
Yes. Basically, we're one day a week. Okay.
Okay.
And we'll say that in court. That doesn't mean that we're not there, other times and signing warrants and signing, orders and that kind of thing. But we have one judge on bench every day, Monday through Friday. And those sessions start at 9:30, and then we have an afternoon session at 1:30 p.m.
Yeah.
You have the criminal side. On the criminal side, we receive affidavits as far as criminal charges. That's your peace bond, that's your trespassing, domestic violence, simple assault, malicious mischief, any kind of affidavit that's out there that you may need to file, you would file that in county court, just Hinds
So
County Justice Court.
yes.
Um,
So
uh,
the if I may interrupt you just to ask, so would you say that the crimes that you just listed are more like misdemeanors that come through?
that is correct. It's going to be on
Okay.
the misdemeanor. You're probably going to be, if it's an offense that carries jail time, it'll probably carry the jail time up to 6 months.
Yes. Okay. And so if a person feels like they have been a crime has been committed against them, do they rush up to the justice court, or do they have to deal with the sheriff's department or someone else when they want to
Um,
file charges on someone?
Well, you can walk in and file the affidavit yourself. However, if the sheriff's department has investigated or was called out and they decide to take it upon themselves to file that affidavit, then it would be filed with the justice court as well. So whether the authorities file the affidavit, or if you want to come in and personally file it yourself, that's where you would come to Hinds
Wow.
County
So
Justice Court.
yeah. So and that's third floor, the courthouse, the Hinds County Courthouse.
That is correct. 407 East Pascagoula Street.
Okay. So let me make sure, if someone feels like they wanted to press charges, they could actually just come up there to the court and file an affidavit against another person.
That's correct. Basically, now when you come to Hinds County Justice Court, you're acting as your own representative or your own attorney. Okay, unless you actually hire a private attorney, you're acting as your own attorney. So uh, you would be able to come in and file those charges yourself. Oftentimes, individuals want to talk to the judge. However, there's a thing called ex parte communication. So we judges call balls and strikes. We don't want to get into siding with one side or the other. We're there to help and we're there to assist and dispense justice. However, we call balls and strikes. We're not taking anybody's sides. We got to get the facts.
Right. So if I were representing someone before you, you would automatically choose me as the winner, right?
Of course not. I call balls and strikes right down the middle.
And actually, I'm not allowed to come before you. Is that correct?
That's correct. I would have to recuse myself
Okay.
respectfully.
Or would you rule against me?
Well, no, I would recuse myself. I have a governing body called Judicial Performance. I don't want any trouble.
Yes. Okay. I don't want you to have any trouble.
Mhm.
All right. So that's the criminal part of it. So usually that's like a trespass charge or um,
Domestic violence, simple assault, harassment, trespassing, those type. And then also, Justice Court would receive citations coming from the Hinds County Sheriff's Department, coming from Jackson State, coming from UMC, University Medical Center. Those offices, if you receive any kind of ticket or citation inside of Hinds County, those tickets would come to Hinds County Justice Court, not to be mixed up with municipal court. Municipal court is Jackson Police Department, that's Jackson Municipal Court. That's separate. A lot of people get that kind of, crossed up. But
right.
Hinds County Justice Court, we're going to take the citations that are coming from the Highway Patrol, Jackson, Jackson State University Medical Center. Okay.
Right. So if you got a citation and were stopped by the city of Jackson Police Department or a JPD officer, then you will go to the municipal court and not to justice court, correct?
That's correct. We
Okay.
also take citations from Capitol Police Department as well.
I see. Okay. I did not realize that until recently that the Capitol Police now that their citations would come through justice court and not the but I guess that would be accurate because they're not the police department, so it would not be municipal court.
That's correct. And then those citations can range from DUI first to DUI second, speeding, leaving the scene of an accident, disregard for a traffic device. Citations of that nature would come through Hinds County Justice Court.
Yes. Okay. And so if we're moving from the criminal side of things to talk about the civil side of things, let's talk about that a little bit. That's where I think I would need more of your help or advice or some thoughts on what to do. What kind of stuff civilly comes through there, Justice Court?
On the civil side, the jurisdictional limit is 3,500 or less. So if your suit falls in that range, 3,500 or less, you can come to Hinds County Justice Court and file your affidavit. There are open accounts. That's where, say, an individual owe you money and they won't pay you, then you can come and file a declaration and affidavit and have that person summoned. A constable will ask you. Of course, again, you're as the plaintiff in the case, you're acting as your own representation. So you're representing yourself. You're coming in and filing this action. The forms are there, however, but you're actually there's no legal help for you there in that realm. So you're acting as your own attorney, basically. So 3,000.
You can hire an attorney if you wanted to, though, huh?
Yes, certainly. So the open account, of course, 3,500 or less. You could file the action. You'd have to provide the person's name and or their business and that physical address. Okay, and that's filing fee at this point is $85. So you would file, pay the $85. A constable will actually go out and serve that summons on the individual that you're filing against. That would be summons to court for the court date. You would receive the court date you're filing. No, and that would be your notice letting you know what the date and time. And of course, it's pretty much like what you see on TV with Judge Judy and Joe Brown and Greg, what's his name? Those guys.
Mathis, Judge Mathis.
Yes, that's him.
Yes. Do you act like Judge Mathis when you're in the courtroom?
Every now and again, I throw one in there as a joke, but for the most part, it's business in there, so we want to keep it a business atmosphere.
Yeah. But what kind of stuff can you sue someone for?
Let's say someone hit your vehicle. Let's say they hit your vehicle. Let's say they didn't have insurance. Okay. So you go to the body shop or your car, you take it in and they give you an estimate and it's 3,500 or less. Then of course you could sue them for that. Let's say you had a contractor to do some work for you. Okay. Let's say that they came out and they were supposed to, let's say, build you a deck, and you gave them the money and then you weren't satisfied, or they didn't complete the job, or they didn't come at all. So then that's your remedy for it, is to come to justice court and file a declaration and affidavit.
So if I got a deck, which I would love to have a deck, but and it costs more than $3,500, I could not bring that to justice court. I would have to go to the next court, which is county court.
That's correct.
Okay. And
Anything
then stuff
that
like, I'm sorry, you go ahead.
anything that would exceed 3,500, then that would go to the next court, which would be county court.
Yes. And so stuff like if you don't pay your lease, your rent, I see a lot of times people are,
landlord tenant. We have a lot of landlord tenant that comes through Hinds County as well. Of course, the same jurisdictional limit, 3,500 or less. Now, let's say if let's say you're the actual landlord and you were renting a house or a unit. Then if the individual didn't pay, okay, after the 5-day grace period, then you would give them a 3-day notice. Okay. Give them the notice, let the notice expire. The 3 days go by. You're going to keep a copy of that notice, okay, that you've given your tenant. You're going to bring it into the Hinds County Justice Court. And you're going to file an affidavit to remove tenant.
Woo!
$85. $85.
Hold up. So when they first, okay, your rent is due, you don't pay it. Then the leasing agent, they file, what is it again?
It's a 3-day notice.
Okay, so you got to give me 3 days notice to get out.
That's in writing.
Okay. In writing. Okay.
Keep a copy of it.
Keep a copy of it. Okay. And then after you get that 3 days notice, then what can the apartment complex or the leasing person do?
They're going to bring that 3-day notice into the court and file an affidavit to remove tenant.
Wow. So that is fairly quick. I mean, they give you 3 days after you haven't paid it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You get that notice and then they come down to the court and they file the action at that point.
That's correct.
Okay. Then, okay, keep going.
A court, like I stated earlier, the constable will take the summons out to the individual that's being served, serve it upon them, okay?
Oh.
Make a return to the court that they've served the summons to the individual, okay?
Yes. Yes.
At that point, the two parties will come before one of the 5 justice court judges, and the case will be heard.
Yes. Wow. So what can folks, I guess, get away with that? They haven't paid it, then or let's just say, well, I just didn't have the money. Hypothetically, how would you rule on that if they, entered into a lease agreement?
The first question that I'm going to ask the tenant is, do you owe the money that the plaintiff is asking for? Let's say it's $1,200. So I'm going to ask, Ms. Palmer, do you owe the $1,200?
And I say, I don't have it. Please don't put me out.
And then I'm going to back up and I'm going to say, Ms. Palmer, again, the question is, do you owe the $1,200?
Yeah.
So then if the answer to that question is yes.
Yes.
And I'm going to say at that point, I'm going to say, well, in light of the testimony that's been given here this morning from the plaintiff as well as the defendant, this court will award judgment for the plaintiff for $1,200. Now, What I'll say after that, though, is, Ms. Palmer, you have 7 days to come current.
Wow.
Okay.
My
So
goodness. So if I don't
within
pay it
those,
in 7 days, I got to get out of there.
you should be making preparations, because the next step for the the next step for the plaintiff is to file a warrant of removal,
If they
which
haven't paid it after the 7 days.
that's correct. And
Wow.
so at that point, then the constable will have the warrant of removal, and at some point they'll come out and serve that warrant of removal and give you 72 hours to vacate.
Wow. So that's what's 72 hours? 3 days?
Three
No,
days.
3 days.
But
Wow.
but
40
now what
days.
I'll say is, because this is an informative conversation, um, Jackson has a lot of apartments, a lot. And
Yes.
so uh, it's not just like it's happening just like that. The process is going to take, a bit. I can't say exactly how long. I can't measure or give you. And oftentimes that's the question. Well, how long before the constable's coming? I can't give that information.
Right. I see. So I would imagine, I recall there being some discussion during COVID. Was there like a little bit of relief that was given during COVID?
Yes, COVID was a whole different monster. There are a lot of people received the benefit of funds that may have been provided by the government, and also it kind of loosened the process as far as actually evicting people, because you were
Yes.
trying to keep people safe at the same time, and so you didn't
Right.
want to force somebody out and then they got to go stay with relatives and it's already 10 people in the house. So
Right.
at that
Right.
time it was a little bit loose on the process.
Right. Right.
Since
Okay.
then we've opened back up, and it's kind of it's that's where we at. Also, I'd like to add though, uh in the ruling, the court only has so much authority on that, because oftentimes the tenants will want to say, well, Judge, I just need this amount of time or that amount of time. Well, again, I'm there to call balls and strikes, and I'm not for either party. I'll tell them that I don't have a hand in extending time or working any deals. Now, at the same time, the court does not frown upon the tenant and the landlord working out some payment plan or some kind of deal. Okay, so we want to make that clear. Don't frown upon it at all. If you can work something out to keep the tenant, or you guys can work something out so that the plaintiff will get their money that they need, and at the same time give a little leniency to the tenant, of course, the court doesn't frown upon that.
Right. So I would imagine, if I just double back a little bit to talk about, sort of, peace bonds, I would imagine you have a lot. Do you have a lot of domestic violence and peace bond cases that come through the court?
Yes, quite a bit, quite a bit. Um, the thing with peace bonds, actually, a peace bond actually is a civil affidavit.
Mm,
It's a civil affidavit that can turn, if it's violated and the judge or the court decides to hold the individual in contempt, then it becomes criminal.
okay, so let's talk layman's terms. So, for example, if um, I have a client that is has gotten into an altercation with her boyfriend, and he's assaulted her some way, but she remains fearful of him. She should come down to the justice court to file the paperwork for a peace bond, which is really a civil action, even though the person has done something that seems like it's a criminal action against them, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
And in my opinion, I would much, and again, this is my opinion. The peace bond is out there, but in my opinion, I would prefer for the applicant to go ahead and file domestic domestic violence simple assault or file for a protection order. Is
Okay.
what I would, in my opinion, is what I would want the individual to do. However, the peace bond is out there to as a tool to be used as well.
So what type of protection or what does the peace bond offer someone?
Normally, with the peace bond, the affiant will file the charge and will put in the body of the affidavit what took place. If he hit her, he kicked her, he pulled her hair, that kind of thing would be in the body of that affidavit. Okay. And they would sign it and swear to it. Again, the constable would go to the address that's provided from the applicant. Okay. And serve that warrant on the individual, asking them to come into the court and answer to the affidavit.
Right. So my client would come in, fill it out, or let's say if she's doing it on her own, she would come in, fill the paperwork out, describe what happened, and then she would need to have the address at least of where the because she's the affiant, right? She's
That's
the
correct.
person filling it out, and then the defendant is the person that the constable is going to deliver this paperwork to or serve them with, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So if the person comes and they don't have an address, that's no good really because it can't be served.
Not at all. That particular information would have to be provided from the affiant.
I see.
A
Okay.
physical
And
physical address, not
a physical address.
physical address, no PO box. Physical
Oh,
address, an actual address that the constable can go to.
okay. And it'll have a court date on it.
The constable would probably go ahead and have that individual give them instruction as to when to come into the court.
I see. Okay.
Which would probably be immediately.
Wow. So then they have to appear before the judge and defend against what the young lady said that he did.
Actually, they're coming in and they're giving a plea of guilty or not guilty to that charge.
I see. Okay. So I guess that's sort of an initial appearance on the charge.
That is correct.
Okay. So they say not guilty. I didn't do all that. Then they get another date to come back and defend against it. Okay.
That is correct. If the plea is not guilty, then the plea is taken by the judge, and the individual will be served and noticed of the court date and time. Judge will also give instructions, though, that they're not to have any contact whatsoever with the individual prior to coming back to court. No contact whatsoever. No social media, no message through another person. I oftentimes say not even a smoke signal. Because if the individual comes back to the court and says there's been some kind of altercation or something's taken place, then contempt warrants will be issued.
Okay. So how long can you make a peace bond last, I suppose?
Normally, if a peace bond is put in place, that's after the individuals have come to court along with the county prosecutor. And let's say that the defendant is found guilty, then oftentimes it's either 6 months or a year that peace bond is put in place. And that means absolutely no contact once again, nothing. And if you violate, then you run the risk of being held in contempt.
I see. So from 6 months to a year.
Right. And oftentimes there's money put up as well. Let's say, might say $1,000 bond is put up, cash bond is put up. And within that period, let's say if the judge prescribes 6 months, within that period, if there's not been anything that's taken place, then the $1,000 could be refunded back to the defendant.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that. So they can get their money back if
If they adhere to the orders that are put in place.
I see. I didn't know that. So you seem like an awfully smart judge.
Well, I thank you for saying that. I do believe that my steps were ordered, and it's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
Um, I think I have the, not to just blow my horn or pat on the back, but I think I have the temperament, the right temperament. Of course, in that seat that I sit in, and my colleagues, the other four colleagues, you have to be quick to listen and quick not to speak.
Yes.
That's why we got two ears and one mouth.
Ah, my father used to say that, huh?
Sit there and listen, take it all in. Don't
Right.
be so quick. And then at the same time, it's, to me, temperament is everything, because at the end of the day, the individuals, they're human beings. And to come off as, let's say, egotistical or that kind of thing, I don't think that's a place for it, in my opinion. So you want to treat the people, the individuals, like people, like you would want to be treated. But at the same time, now there's a level of respect that we need when you come into that courtroom. Need to be respected, and I'm me myself, speaking for myself. I'm going to meet you where you are. So if you come in and you're respectful and you're uh, representing yourself in that way, then you'll get that treatment. You come in with the other side, then there's another side that comes along with me.
Okay. Wow. Well, that kind of is where I was gonna maybe end us out. Is what attitude do you think people should have when they come to court? And I guess just generally with each other, is that picks up maybe on the respect that you just mentioned.
The golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Right, right,
And yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, and thank you. It will go a long way.
right. Well, I've talked to our daughter about possibly going into law or the justice system, and she has no desire at all.
None whatsoever.
So
Although I think she's equipped for it. I didn't have it either, so you just never know. She's definitely been prepped for it.
she has indeed.
But
Well, Judge Palmer,
by the same token, though, we are very proud of her. Very
yes,
proud of that young lady.
very much so. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming out on this evening, and I hope to see you soon.
All right. Thank you for having me. And God bless.
God bless you too.